So the conditions this morning are really intriguing, is the word that I want to use. So I'm looking forward to this morning's location, I really am. Before we get into it, a huge thank you to Squarespace for kindly sponsoring today's video. If you need your own photography website or website for anything else, I highly recommend Squarespace. So yeah, big thanks to them. I'm really local today actually, and the forecast was sort of for fog, but also saying we might get some light, but also saying that it could just cloud over. It feels like it proper is a mix of all of them. Like up behind me here, we've got a few patches of blue sky, and you've seen the fog over here. There was a lot more where I am now, but I think it started to lift, which is what it's going to do naturally, you know, as the day goes on. So this location really should be all about this sort of stuff here, like the limestone. There's going to be a lot of areas of limestone pavement, and we're quite high up, especially by the time we get up to a lot of the limestone pavement. We're going to be, I think, about 250 metres up. So the plan really was to try and maximise any fog that we might get by just coming up high. So far, it's looking like that plan has worked. Focus, I am. This is all very weird. So I'm set up. I've actually taken this photograph already, and you can see just behind me in the camera here, I found this really small section of limestone pavement. I've only come 5 minutes since I last spoke to you. There's going to be a lot more where this came from at some stage, I hope. I've never been here before. It looks proper foggy off in the distance, so I can't see a thing. But I'm confident that I'm going to hit it soon enough. But for now, I don't know what it is. In fact, I do know what it is, and it's gone. It was the light. The light was really weird up here, like this kind of glow or diffuse light that was coming through the fog maybe, and it was sort of lighting up the foreground here ever so slightly. And ethereal is definitely the best word to use here. So strange, so weird. Composition I'll get into first because it's so simple. I've got the wide angle lens on at 14mm. I've just filled the bottom of the frame with all of this limestone pavement, which is exactly what I wanted to talk about in today's video. I've noticed I've been using, it seems to be since I made that video about my 24-200 lens, I've coincidentally been using my 14-30 wide angle lens so much more, even when I'm up on the fells. And yeah, the main thing that I wanted to say is, I suppose, how I really love to use, or how I pretty much exclusively use my wide angle lens now, and that is getting close in on foreground subjects, pretty much like I am doing now, although I'm not very close to this limestone pavement as you can see here. In actual fact I am, because I've got all of this subject in as if it's one, so that's quite a lot of foreground interest there. And that's what I like to do, is really fill the foreground of a photograph by using the wide angle lens, and I suppose definitely making it the main subject actually in a frame. So say for example I'm up on the mountains. In fact the mountains with the wide angle lens become the secondary subject. It's the foreground where I'm sticking the lens right in front of it. I'll put an image up here actually where I captured the ice in the foreground, and even though, you know, we had a beautiful mountain range off there in the background, it was that ice in the foreground that really took center stage, and that is exactly what I love doing with the wide angle lens. So I feel like I'm doing that here. One thing I have to mention about the composition, I've never actually done this before, but the landscape, probably because of the fog, it's playing tricks with me. So if I straighten, I always use the electronic level when I'm taking a photograph. If I put it level, it looks weird. Perfect example is this, as you're looking at me now. My video camera is completely level, but look at the horizon, if you want to call it that there. It looks weird. So I've actually gone against the electronic level. So it's a wonky photograph, but it looks level because I've straightened the horizon. Really, it's just strange all around, you know. But yeah, definitely a good use of the wide angle lens. And it's all about that sort of ethereal light that we were getting before through the clouds or the fog. Somehow it was odd. I focused probably about 1/3 of the way into the image on the limestone. Nice and simple. Our settings today are, for the first shot of the day, 1/13 of a second, f11 and ISO 64. You know what? It's gone even nicer. I was really worried before. You remember when I showed you that there was a little bit of blue sky, patches of blue sky? I was feeling as if the fog was gonna lift and it was gonna just go boring. I think if anything, it's coming a little bit thicker. So I'm set up here. I'll just show you down here. So we've got the wide angle lens on again. Where's my camera at now? Here. There it is. Wide angle lens, and I'm getting really close to this foreground once again. I'll get into that in a sec. And then we've got this beautiful, I think it's an oak tree. I'm terrible with my trees. But he's really skeletal. Obviously we're here in winter. He's lost all of his leaves. And everything feels like it fits perfectly with this composition in terms of the conditions at least. One thing that I really look for with fog in these locations especially is actually detail. The fog obviously softens the landscape. It softens subjects to the point where it almost makes parts of your photograph look out of focus. So I like to find a contrast and actually find detail. And that's another thing that I love to use the wide angle lens for. You know, I'm down here now and I'm so close to some of these limestone pavement, to some of these rocks. So they're going to be pin sharp, you know, not affected by the fog whatsoever. Whereas when we get further back towards the tree, and especially behind the tree, that's all softening up. So we get that wonderful contrast throughout the composition. You know, it's going to give us depth. So yeah, I've got a nice simple composition here, guys. To be honest, all I've done is, once again, utilising this wide angle lens like I think it's meant to be used, filling up the foreground, filling up the bottom of this frame with all these beautiful rocks here. And then we've got this oak tree, and I've centralised him, bang, right in the centre, or the top centre of the frame, sorry. And he is just dominating the composition. And that's what I love to do sometimes, you know, when you've got a lone subject, especially when it's a lone tree like this. Now, with the wide angle lens, briefly, again, this is how I feel like it's supposed to be used, getting in close to foregrounds. All too often, I see, and I understand that it's so tempting, I see when people are up the side of a fell, up the side of a mountain, and they just want to stick the wide angle lens on and get a snapshot. You know, they're not thinking about foreground, they just want to capture everything they see. And in a way it makes sense, because a lot of the time it's so overwhelming, you know, especially when you're on the top of a mountain and everything just looks amazing. But I'd urge you, you know, to just try thinking about foreground, because, you know, for the most part, especially today, that's all this is about, getting in close with your wide angle lens. Give it a go the next time that you go out, you know. But like I've said, this is what I feel they're made for us landscape photographers, you know, accentuating, bringing out the foreground and letting it fill up your frame. So over half of my frame here is all of this limestone pavement. I'm at 1/8 of a second, f11 and ISO 64. I'm at 14mm on my wide angle lens, the 14 to 30 f4. And that's it. Probably the only other thing I've done here differently, technically, is I've actually focus stacked, because I really want to retain all this beautiful detail and sharpness in this limestone pavement here in the foreground. So I hope that image came out all right. Am I in focus? I am. So what's happening now is, you won't be able to tell from behind me, but we're getting some larger areas of blue sky. So I've just got a feeling that it's either going to lift and disappear, or we're going to get light through the fog, which would be mad. And before I move on, because I would like to try and get at least one more photograph, I wanted to say another massive thank you to today's video sponsor, which is of course Squarespace. I'm very grateful for their support. If you don't know who they are, it's a platform where you can build your own website for photography or anything else that you want it to be for, exactly like I always say. I was really intimidated by creating my own website, but with Squarespace, it is genuinely so easy. I've used them for nearly 3 years now, all paid for with my own money, and it continues to be paid for with my own money, for whatever that's worth to some of you out there. It's a fantastic service. Best thing about it, like I always say, it's made so easy. There's templates that you can use on there to start creating your website, and to be honest, when I did mine, I found a template that I liked, barely changed it at all. Obviously just put my own images on there and my own text. So there's no reason to be intimidated at all. I promise you. I know we're coming into the new year. A lot of people have New Year's resolutions. That might be one of yours to, create your own website. I highly recommend Squarespace. Fantastic customer service as well. It is easy, but you may hit a few speed bumps along the way. I certainly did. But they're very quick to respond, and they make everything very simple for you. Or you might just want it as a portfolio as well. You don't have to sell things on there like I do. I have all my prints on there for sale, which, by the way, I'm going to continue that sale on through into the new year. So won't be there for long, but I had to get that in there, as always. But yeah, you could just have it as a portfolio. It doesn't have to be a business website per se. But anyway, another massive thank you for them. If you want to give them a go, head over to squarespace.com/Henry Turner and use the offer code Henry Turner to get yourself 10% off your first purchase. What a peach. Right, the fog looks like it's lifting now. Let's go and see what we can find. You know what? It's so weird. So anyway, I can describe this landscape. Look, it feels like otherworldly. I am actually grabbing another shot here, but I've already taken it, fortunately. But the fog is in and out. I've actually got the long lens on here, 24 to 200 lens, in at 200mm, pretty far in, and it's because we had. For a very brief moment, a view of Ingleborough, which is a peak over in Yorkshire, right off in the background. And we just so happened on the sort of bottom right-hand frame to have another really nice oak tree that was leaning off into Ingleborough. Something a little bit abstract and just weird, like it's strange. That is the word of this morning, weird. But I think it was probably worth taking, definitely different from anything else that I've taken this morning. The main reason that I came out, actually, was to do probably a little bit of a recce, which I don't really do that much anymore. Especially with the Wainwrights that I'm doing. I just pick a fell and go and see what the day brings, really. But I do feel like now and again, for me at least, this does have a big benefit. And the main thing that I'm thinking with this landscape is snow. Imagine this with like a layer of snow on it. That would be otherworldly to the max. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, Plus, it's only 20 minutes from the gaff, from home. So that's mental. I can't believe I've never been here before. It's absolutely beautiful. And yeah, I just think it's a really nice, it's a huge benefit to have some places in your head when you get a bit of snow, or, in autumn when, the colours coming around, where you can just go to and you've been there, you kind of know what to expect, and fog as well. Fog's the most frustrating condition, to be in, the landscape photography condition, when you don't know what you're photographing. It's an absolute nightmare. Condition, does that make sense? Conditions, you know what I mean? It's a nightmare because it's so beautiful, especially when you get the light and you're running around like a headless chicken. But if you at least know where to come to, you may even know one or two compositions like I've found today. It's a huge benefit. So I'll show you this last shot now anyway. And then, yeah, I'm going to go. I think I might have a little bit more of a wander around by myself, but I've seen enough. It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous, and I do feel like it's one of them spots where you can just rock up, to be fair, in the snow, and everything's going to look unreal. But thank you so much for your support. I really do appreciate it. Please give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. As I always say, it proper helps me out on YouTube. And if you're not subscribed, please do so. And make sure you hit the little bell icon next to it and you'll get notifications for my videos. I hope you like this last photograph. Thanks again, and I'll see you on the next adventure. Out.